A very good evening, friends. I welcome you all to the daily newspaper analysis brought to you by the Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is 25th June 2024. Here are the list of articles which we are going to discuss today. So, let's get started. Look at this news article. On Monday, delegations from India and Pakistan, along with neutral experts, began inspecting the two power projects in Kiswar district of Jammu and Kashmir under the Indus Water Treaty (IWT). See, nearly 40 officials arrived in Jammu on Sunday evening and flew to Kiswar on Monday morning for the inspection of the under construction projects in the Chenab Valley region. This marks the first visit by a Pakistani delegation to J&K in over 5 years under the dispute settlement mechanism of the 1960 Indus Water Treaty. See, this is the crux of the article. In our discussion today, let us discuss about Indus Water Treaty from the preliminary perspective. Firstly, India and Pakistan signed the Indus Water Treaty in September 1960 after 9 years of negotiations, with World Bank being a major signatory to the pact. The treaty sets out a mechanism for the cooperation and exchange of information between the two sides on the use of the water from the river Indus and its 5 tributaries called Sutlej, Beas, Ravi, Jhelum and Chenab. Okay, now let us see the provisos of the treaty one by one. Firstly, with respect to water sharing. See, the treaty specifies how water from the 6 rivers of the Indus system can be shared between India and Pakistan. The treaty assigned 3 western rivers, Indus, Chenab and Jhelum, to the Pakistan for unrestricted use except for certain non-consumptive agricultural and domestic uses by the India. Moreover, the 3 eastern rivers called Ravi, Beas, Sutlej are being allotted to India for unrestricted uses. This results in 80% of the water going to Pakistan and remaining 20% to India. Okay. Secondly, with respect to Permanent Indus Commission, the treaty requires India and Pakistan to establish a Permanent Indus Commission with permanent commissioners from both the sides. The commission must meet at least once a year according to the provisos of the treaty. Thirdly, rights over the rivers. See, Pakistan has rights over the waters of Jhelum, Chenab and Indus. However, Annexure C of the treaty allows India to have certain agricultural uses. And Annexure D permits India to build run-of-the-rivers hydropower projects which do not require live storage of water. Fourthly, with respect to dispute resolution mechanism. See, the treaty includes a 3-step dispute resolution mechanism under Article 9. The issues can be resolved at the permanent commission level or at the intergovernmental level. If unsolved, technical differences can be taken into the World Bank, which can appoint a neutral expert to make a decision. If either party is unsatisfied with the decision of neutral expert, or if there is dispute over the treaty's interpretation, then the matter can be referred to the Court of Arbitration. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the various provisions of the Indus River Treaty from the exam perspective. With this, let us see the next news article of the day. Look at this news article. The center has updated the rules to let the women government employees to take 180 days of maternity leave if they have children through surrogacy. The new rules also grant childcare leave to the commissioning mother, that is, the intended mother of a child born through surrogacy, and 15 days of paternity leave to the commissioning father. See, these changes are being made as a part of the Central Civil Services Leave Rule 1972. See, this is the crux of the article. In our discussion today, let us know about the Maternity Benefit Act and its provisos from the exam perspective. See, the Maternity Benefit Act of 1961 was initially passed to regulate the employment of women in specific establishment before and after the childbirth, thus providing the maternity and other benefits. Initially, it did apply to factories, mines and plantations, but in 1973, it was extended to the government establishment and those employing people for equestrian, acrobatic and other performance. The Act prohibits the employers from knowingly employing a woman in any establishment during the 6 weeks immediately following her delivery or miscarriage. It also grants the right to paid maternity leave which cannot exceed 12 weeks. To avail of these benefits, a woman must work in the establishment for at least 160 days in the 12 months preceding her expected delivery date. See, the violation of any provisions can result up to 3 months of punishment and it's accompanied with or without a fine. Okay, this is the Parent Act. Now, let's go and discuss the amendments which are made in the Act. See, the Maternity Benefits Amendment Act 2017 amended the Section 5 of the original Act to extend the paid leave after childbirth to 26 weeks though this applies only to biological mother. See, moreover, it introduced Section 5 Clause 4 granting adoptive or surrogative mothers who legally adopt a child under 3 months a maternity benefit period of 12 weeks from this date when the child was being handed over to them. Additionally, the amendment included the provisions under Section 5 Clause 3 allowing the women to work from home if the nature of work permits. See, this can be done after they have availed of their maternity benefit. Moreover, the amended act also mandates that every establishment with 50 or more employees must have a creche facility and the employer must allow 4 visits a day to the creche along with the rest interval for the mother. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the provisos of the Maternity Benefit Act in a brief manner. With this, now let us move on to discuss the next news article of the day. Look at this article. It talks about how religious practices affects the various aspects of Indian culture. To elaborate upon this topic, we are going for a mains answer discussion in our question and answer format. Okay, let's get started. Let me read the question for you. Critically analyze the influence of class and religion on the food habits of people of India. See, it comes under GS paper 1 of the UPSC mains. Okay, now see that it's a straightforward analytical question where we have to give a brief picture of how different aspects of culture affect our food habits. Our introduction part should outline the interplay between caste, class and religion in shaping the diverse culinary landscape of India, highlighting the significance of these factors in the dietary practices. Okay, now let us see how we can answer this question. Firstly, our intro can be like this. India's food culture is a tapestry woven with threads of caste, class and religion, each influencing the dietary practices and preference of the people. These social determinants not only dictate what is to be consumed, but also reflect and reinforce the various societal structures and norms. Now, coming to the body part, we have to briefly discuss how different religions influence the vegetarianism and specific dietary restrictions. Also, summarize the impact of the caste system and class on the dietary choices, focusing on division between vegetarian Brahminism and non-vegetarian lower casteism. Now let us see how we can write the body part of the answer. Firstly, influence of caste on the food habits. See, Brahmins and vegetarianism. Brahmins, positioned at the top of the caste hierarchy, traditionally adhere to strict vegetarianism. A 2019 study by the National Family Health Survey revealed that approximately 44% of the Brahmins are vegetarians. Moreover, the lower castes, including Dalits and Adivasis, have a more diverse diet that often includes meat. See, this dietary difference stems from the historical marginalization and limited access to agricultural land, thus necessitating a reliance on the available resources like fish, poultry and other meats. For example, Dalits in various parts of the country historically consumed beef and pork, which are being considered as a taboo by the upper castes. Moreover, the caste system also imposes dietary restriction and taboos that reinforces the societal boundaries. For example, interdining between the caste is traditionally discouraged. In the second part of the body, we can see about the influence of class on the food habits. See, wealthier classes have access to wide range of foods including fresh fruit, vegetables, dietary products and meat. They can afford a nutritionally balanced diet. See, according to 2018 report by the National Sample Survey Office, urban households, which are generally wealthier, spend significantly more on the food rather than rural households. Secondly, lower income groups often have limited access to diverse food options, relying heavily on the staples like rice, wheat and pulses. See, the National Family Health Survey 4 data highlights that anemia and malnutrition are more prevalent among the lower income groups, underscoring the impact of economic disparities on the dietary practices. Thirdly, let us see about the influence of religion on the food habits. See, the Hindu dietary practices vary widely, but vegetarianism is common especially among the devout Hindus. Certain foods are avoided during the religious fast and observances. Secondly, Muslims adhere to halal dietary laws which dictate permissible foods and method of slaughter. Here, the pork is strictly forbidden. Thirdly, generally Sikhs avoid beef, reflecting the influence of Hindu dietary norms. See, the community kitchen or langars in Gurudwara serve vegetarian meals to uphold the principles of equality and inclusivity. Finally, Christians in India have a fewer dietary restrictions, but here also regional and cultural influences play a major role. For example, Goan Christians have a rich culinary tradition that includes pork, seafood, reflecting their Portuguese influences. having seen this, now let us see what are the contemporary changes which happened in this structure. Firstly, the increasing exposure to the global cuisines and the rise of middle class are transforming the traditional food habits. See, fast food consumption is on the rise with the 2019 report by the India Food Report indicating that a 35% increase in the fast food consumption happened in India over the past decade. Secondly, government policies also influences the food habits. See, the National Food Security Act aims to provide subsidized food grains to approximately 2/3 of Indians. This can be done for addressing the food security among lower income groups. Additionally, programs like midday meals are aimed to improve the nutritional intake among children from the economically disadvantaged background. See, this can be your body part of the answer. Now in the conclusion, we can write like this. India's food habit, carved out by the forces of caste, class, religion, narrate the story of a nation's historical journey and its cultural ethos. As India strides forward, these social dimensions continue to mold its culinary identity, reflecting the evolving landscape of Indian society. See, the confluence of diverse religious practices, the lingering shadows of the caste system, and the dynamic waves of globalization serve not to just to nourish, but also to define the way, the very essence of what it means to partake in India's culinary experiences. See, this can be your balanced conclusion. So this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the influence of various institutions like caste, religion, class on the dietary practices of Indians. With this, now let us move on to see the next news article of the day. Look at this text and context page article. It explains how the Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act PESA has helped in the forest conservation of India. It says that when the local tribal communities are getting involved in the decision making, they have a strong incentive to protect the forest because ultimately they rely on them for their livelihood. The article also talks about a study which found that the areas with mandated tribal representation saw an increase in the tree care and decrease in the deforestation. This demonstrates that empowering local community can effectively balance the forest conservation and economic development. So given its importance, let's learn in depth about the PESA Act. Firstly, the Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act was passed in 1996 to empower the tribal communities of India. It was an extension of Part 9 of the Constitution, that is, the Panchayats to the Scheduled Areas. Here, Part 9 of the Constitution contains articles from Article 243 to 243 ZT. See, under the PESA Act, scheduled areas are those which are being referred in the Article 244, Clause 1. It says that the provisions of the 5th schedule shall apply to the scheduled areas and scheduled tribes in the states other than Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. Note that the 10 states are Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan and Telangana. See, these states have notified the 5th schedule areas that cover several districts in each of the states. So we can say that this act has extended the Panchayat Raj provisions only to the areas which are mentioned in the Scheduled 5 and not to the areas which are covered in the Schedule 6 of the Constitution. Now talking about the futures. See, PESA sets up community meetings called Gram Sabhas which helps the community participate in planning and development projects and decide how to carry out them. The Act also creates local bodies like Gram Panchayat, Panchayat Samiti to manage the developmental activities and providing basic services. Next, PESA gives the Gram Panchayat and Gram Sabha strong powers to manage the natural resources, protect the environment and regulate the local economic activities. See, before any developmental projects or activities have to start in the scheduled areas, the Act requires that the Gram Sabha should be consulted. Additionally, the Act allows the funds to be given to the Gram Sabha and Gram Panchayat to enable them to perform their functions. And continuing our discussion, the Act also protects the land right of the tribal communities, requiring their consent before any land can be taken or transferred. Moreover, PESA safeguards the cultural and social practices of the tribal communities, preventing any interferences with these practices. Now, we are gonna see how PESA helps the tribes and conservation of forest. Firstly, by giving them political power, PESA allows them to protect their economic interests and livelihood, preventing harmful activities like commercial timber cutting and mining that causes deforestation. Secondly, since tribes depend on the forest for the non-timber produces and daily needs, it encourages them to manage their forest in a sustainable manner which leads to better conservation. Thirdly, PESA has shown to reduce the deforestation rate, especially near the mining areas, because it did empower the tribal communities and thereby they resist the destructive activities more effectively. Finally, PESA involves local communities in decision making, making conservation efforts more inclusive and effective. This is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the provisos of the Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act, and in the second part, we saw about how it empowered the local community to not only protect them but also protect the nature. So with this learned points, let us move on to discuss the next news article of the day. Look at this economic article. India's current account balance showed a surplus of $5.7 billion, which accounts for 0.6% of our GDP in the Quarter 4 of the financial year 24. See, this is compared to a deficit of 1.3 billion a year ago. See, these are all some of the findings of the Reserve Bank of India. Moreover, the merchandise trade deficit in the Q4 of FY24 was $50.9 billion, which is lower than the $52.6 billion a year ago. See, the Q4's service exports got increased by 4.1% year on year, driven by the rising software exports, travel and business services. See, the chief economist ICRA noted that this was the first current account surplus in the 10 quarters, exceeding the expectations of ICRA. See, the shift from a deficit a year ago to surplus was mainly due to the merchandise trade deficit dropping to a 10-quarter low of $50.9 billion in the Q4 of FY24 from $69.9 billion in the Q3 of financial year 24. See, this is the crux of the article. Now, in our discussion, let us see about current account deficit and its trend from the preliminary perspective. Firstly, with respect to current account deficit, see, it's when the value of country's imports of goods and services is greater than the exports. See, the CAD and the fiscal deficit together makes up twin deficits that can impact the stock market and investors. The FT is the gap between the government's expenditure requirements and the receipts of the government. This equals the money the government need to borrow during a financial year. See, the CAD for the first half of the 22-23 was 3.3% of the GDP. But the situation got improved in the third quarter of the 22-23 due to various factors like lower commodity prices and moderated imports. See, the CAD can be positive or negative indicator for an economy depending upon why it is running a deficit. See, foreign capital is seen to have been used to finance the investments in many economies. It may help a debtor nation in the short term, but guys, it may worry in the long term as investors begin raising concerns over the adequate return on their investments. See, India's current account position is largely on the deficit side because of the country's dependence on oil imports. Also note that the economic survey for the fiscal year 2020-21 projected that India's current account to register a surplus of 2% of the GDP, and this marks the first time in 17 years that India is expected to have a current account surplus. Okay, now let us see what are the factors which led to this surplus. In the fourth quarter of the 2019-20, India's current account balance turned to surplus due to a lower trade deficit and significant increase in the net invisible receipts. See, subsequent quarters of the 2020-21 also witnessed current account surpluses. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In our discussion, we saw about the various trends of current accounts and the deficit and surplus from the preliminary perspective. With this, let us move on to see the next news article of the day. Look at this article. It states about the NITI Aayog's project on Great Nicobar Island. In this backdrop, let us analyze the article in a brief from the preliminary perspective. Let's start with the geographical significance and demographics. See, the Great Nicobar, situated in the southernmost tip of India, is a part of Andaman Nicobar archipelago, comprising over 600 islands. This island, covering 910 square kilometers, is characterized by lush rainforest, significant rainfall, and rich biodiversity, including endangered species like giant leatherback turtle and Nicobar megapode. The island also hosts two indigenous communities, the Shampen, which has about 250 people who are hunter-gatherers living in the interior forest, and Nicobaris, about 450 Great Nicobaris and 850 Little Nicobaris, who practice farming and fishing. Additionally, it has settlers from mainland India who were brought in between 1968 to 75, form a significant population of the island, comprising over 6,000 people. Having these basics about the Nicobar Island, now let's move forward and see the proposal of the NITI Aayog. See, in March 21, NITI Aayog introduced a 72,000 crore plan which is titled Holistic Development of the Great Nicobar Island. This plan includes constructing an international transshipment terminal, an international airport, power plant and a township. See, the Andaman and Nicobar Island Integrated Development Corporation (ANITCO) is responsible for the implementation. See, the project aims to integrate Great Nicobar into the global maritime economy, leveraging its proximity to the Malacca Strait, which is one of the busiest international sea routes. See, it also seeks to foster sustainable tourism and economic development. Having seen this, let us see the potential benefit of the project. See, the proposed port and airport are expected to boost the maritime services and tourism, positioning Great Nicobar as a key player in the global cargo transshipment. See, the development plan also aims to transfer the island into a significant hub for the international trade tourism, potentially bringing economic growth and infrastructural development. Moving ahead, let's see the associated concerns regarding this project. See, firstly, ecological impact. The project necessitating a diversion of approximately 130 square kilometer of forest land and cutting down around 10 lakh trees. See, the two wildlife sanctuaries, Galathea Bay and Megaport, were denotified to facilitate the projects. The Galathea Bay, a major nesting site for the giant leatherback turtle, is particularly impacted. Secondly, tribal rights and consent. See, the Tribal Council of the Great Nicobar and Little Nicobar withdrew their NOC, citing inadequate information disclosure and rushed consent process. The portion of the land labelled as uninhabited in the project plan are the ancestral land of the Great Nicobaris who have faced administrative barriers in reclaiming these lands post-tsunami. Thirdly, health risk. See, the Champagne community with a limited exposure to the external population faces significant health risk from the potential disease outbreaks due to increased contact. Fourthly, seismic risk. See, the Andaman and Nicobar archipelago is in seismically active region. This can pose earthquake risks which are inadequately addressed in the project plan. Finally, political and social reactions. See, the project has attracted criticism from the various political entity and social groups. The main opposition has called for the immediate suspension of all the clearances, citing legal, constitutional and ecological concerns. The Communist Party has also included scrapping the project in the 2024 manifesto, emphasizing the environmental and pro-corporate biases. See, moreover, environmentalists and tribal rights activists have echoed this statement, advocating for a thorough and impartial review of the implication of the projects. See, this is all regarding the discussion. In this discussion, we saw about the Great Nicobar project and the various issues and benefits associated with it. This is all regarding the discussion. With this, now let us move on to see the next part of our discussion, that is to discuss the preliminary practice questions. Today we are having 4 questions. I'll solve 3 of them and one will be the quiz question for you to solve. Let's see the first question. With reference to balance of payment, which of the following constitute the current account? See, out of these 4 components which are given here, we can say that the second option, foreign assets and special drawing rights, are the capital instruments which won't fit into the current account. So, negating these 2, the correct option is option C, 1 and 3 only. Let's move on to second question. Consider the following 3 schemes. Which of these schemes provide cash incentives to the pregnant woman? See, option 1 is correct because Janani Suraksha Yojana is a safe motherhood intervention under the National Health Mission. See, it's being implemented with the objective of reducing the maternal and neonatal mortality by promoting institutional delivery among the poor pregnant women. It was launched in 2005 as a centrally sponsored scheme which integrates cash assistance with delivery and post-delivery care. So, first statement is correct. See the option 2, Janani Sishu Suraksha Karyakam. See, it was launched in 2011 to assure free services to all pregnant and sick neonates accessing the public health institutions. See, rather than providing cash incentives, the scheme aims to provide free and cashless services to the pregnant woman for normal deliveries and cesarean operations, and it also allows for the treatment of sick newborns up to 30 days after the birth. So this option is incorrect. Let's see the third option. It is Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana. See, this is also correct because this also have the element of cash transfer. So, eliminating option 2, the correct option is option B, 1 and 3 only. Okay, let's see the third question of the day. Consider the following statements regarding the Indus Water Treaty. Okay, now let us check the veracity of the statements. See the statement 1, it's incorrect because the Indus Water Treaty allows the waters of Chenab, Indus and Jhelum to Pakistan for the unrestricted uses, whereas India gets the unrestricted use of the waters of Ravi, Beas and Sutlej. Let us see the second statement. The Permanent Indus Commission is required to meet at least once a year according to the provisions of the treaty. See, this is correct as we have seen in our discussion. Let's see the third statement. See, this is also correct because the treaty provides a 3-step dispute resolution mechanism involving Permanent Indus Commission, neutral expert and court of interpretation. So statement 1 alone is incorrect. So the correct option is option B. See, the question based on today's discussion is displayed here. Interested aspirants can write and get back to us. The mains question based on today's discussion is also displayed here. So interested aspirants can write and get back to us. If you like today's discussion, like, comment and share it with your friends. For more updates regarding UPSC preparation, subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy. Thank you.